Hello Ratbags, it's Jade Plays Games, welcome to the Access Show. Today we are taking a look at Memories of Mars, just come out this week on Steam. It's heading to Xbox One and PS4, maybe in the future too. Published by 505 Games, so quite a big publisher nowadays, and the studio behind it is pretty experienced, I do believe. The game is really polished. First off impressions, which I'm going to be giving you in this video, is that it looks great, it runs pretty well as well. From the tagline and the thumbnail, you can see I've labelled it Rust in Space because it is very PvP eccentric. There is no single player game at the moment. There is no offline play. It's purely online play, and you can obviously take on other players. There is no PvE servers. It's kill or be killed. Maybe trust in other players to help you and defend and make a base together or join up. But that is not always the best option. We're going to compare it a little bit more to Rust, but let's talk about some of the other games that are out there at the moment and why this one so far is looking pretty good. You've got a lot of space games come out on Steam in the last 2 years. Osiris, New Dawn, Planet Nomads, then you've got things like Pantropy, lots and lots of space games out there. Some of them have performed better than others, and they all have this survival element to it. What I found playing Memories of Mars straight away was it was definitely more about that PvP focus, about exploration, about trying to find maybe other players. And that's why I think it's very much like Rust. You can go and gather resources, there's lots of crafting elements that you would normally find, but it's in its initial stages, it just feels like Rust in space. You wake up in this space laboratory, you are a clone, and the idea is that there's all clones, you're all part of this clone setup being made on Mars, and that's what happens. What else is unique about Memories of Mars is it has seasons. Now the seasons basically wipe everything, so if you're someone that loves your buildings and your bases, forget it, it's going to wipe after a period of time. You would only transfer your character data so that you don't have to basically learn some engrams again. That's the only thing that remains. Your bases get destroyed, all your inventory gets destroyed, lots of it all just goes. Now they are thinking, or they have said, they will open up certain slots so you can literally put a few things, a few key items into next season's play. But that's what they're planning at the moment, that everything basically gets wiped except your character progression. So when the new season starts, you'll be able to unlock things a lot quicker, you should be able to be more adept, and you'll be able to have more skills or try different skill branches that you maybe didn't try the first time. There are 3 different skill branches to go for. You've got Architect, then you've got sort of the Explorer or Survivor, and you have the Technician class. Now these 3 classes all give you different benefits. Obviously with the Architect class, you'll be the base builder. So if you do tribe up with someone, you do become part of a crew, you'll be in charge of making building materials because you'll unlock all the blueprints or engrams, however you want to call them, to make your bases. Then you've got a Technician, which is dealing with armor and guns. They're the guys that are going to be making gadgets for you, making tools. It'll be easier and quicker for them to do all sorts of that stuff, and you'll apply buffs and nerfs to all of that. Then you've got the Survivor, which carries a lot and it doesn't take as much damage, and it can kind of just get around the map a little bit more, explore a little bit easier, it doesn't need as much food. Pretty simple, pretty basic, but you can veer off, you can choose, you know, whatever you want from each of these classes. You don't necessarily have to be just a Technician or just have to be a Architect. You can mix and match. The currency though that you do this is called flops, and this is where it gets even more interesting. The currency, the flops, is what you'll be killing other players for. There's also random events that happen on the surface of Mars, and they'll call forth, they'll be alerted to pretty much the whole server, and the server goes forward and competes or plays with each other to gain as many flops as possible. Now these flops are what you buy upgrades with, they're what you use as experience points. They're basically the full currency of the game, so you need lots and lots of these flops. It pretty much enables you to craft and make stuff and also buy items as well. So it's a really good idea. The risk reward of going out and maybe raiding someone to get a hold of some flops, or going up to an event and worrying that you may get killed even if you do beat that event, that is always a little bit of extra fun, a little bit of extra excitement in a game like this. Like I said, some of them other space games do have PvP servers, but it doesn't feel nowhere near as dangerous running around the maps or the servers, whereas here I ran into players quite a few. Now this was pre-alpha, the gameplay you're seeing just before this was just before early access actually released, so I'm sure they had a big update. The map has been expanded quite big. It's still quite a small map, it has to be said. There's lots of man-made structures on the map. You can go and explore these, and have got little cachements. And we have, of course, our enemies. Now, at the moment, there is a real dearth of enemies. There isn't that much at all. You've got basically 2 types of this mechanical spider, and you've got something a little bit like a sandworm, but they're robots. They're all robots so far. The 2 spiders are basically just shooting different damage. One of them, I think, does sort of poisonous damage, and another one just does sort of basic normal, health damage. Now, it may not be the simple case of just adding new mobs, add creatures through development. I think it's really going to be tied to this season. From what they've told me, the seasons, as they progress, you'll get new enemies, new things to explore, new content. And I like that idea. It's very popular at the moment with Fortnite. Even, Battlefield 5 is talking about their tides of war, the seasons, or what they're going to be adding with content to keep online services going. And obviously, when it's an online game only like this, you definitely need more things to keep people coming back, specifically if there's no single player. They may add a single player. I don't know. I've not really heard anything about it from developers saying that they're going to be doing anything like a single player version. At the moment, it's very basic. What I will say, definitely, yeah, gathering resources, the resources that you gather, you're not going to be scratching your head wondering how to get something. It's very, very simplistic. 5, 6, maybe 7 key resources that you're going to need to gather. You're not going to be searching around the whole map for something really minute. Although I did have a bit of trouble finding nitrate, but when I played it after the early access launch, I had loads of nitrate lying around. One of obviously the key aspects I've spoken about, comparing it to Rust, is the player interaction. And I really like that. I've been wanting to get into a really good PvP situation. I've played Conan Exiles and I liked it, but it was still just a bit too much of a grind. Ark is just too toxic and too mad for me to get into. I'm not dealing with server tribes. But something like this, where it's a little bit more small scale, I think I could really get into, and it's definitely something I want to try. I do want to try Rust as well, but I feel like such a noob with that game because it's gone beyond, there's so many people know how to play it, it's been around for so long. Whereas this gives me a fresh chance to kind of start people. So expect to see lots of content. I'm planning on doing lots of stuff with other YouTubers, maybe doing some content with Frisonis and a few others, and hopefully we can tribe up and go and kill some players. But I met someone. And it's that nice interaction where you're not necessarily going to be killed on site. I did hear that reported a lot from other players, that they had lots of issues where they were just constantly spawn killed. I do believe developers have fixed that by adding new spawn points and making it not so prevalent where you spawn. So you do have a chance to run away. The visuals of the game, I think, are good. And I'll go back to what I said at the start. It looks really good compared to them other space games I mentioned. This is probably the most polished one I've seen so far. It doesn't have a lot in it. There's not a huge amount of world formations and environmental details. There's definitely other games that have more, interesting stuff about it. You can just see me trolling someone. I've done exactly what I said. Them crappy ass players that pretend to be your friend and then just decide to shoot you. Nothing come of that. But these are the man-made things. Now, these are good details. These are the good things to go and explore. And they're well put together, but there's not a lot in here. You can craft resources. There's a few workbenches. And maybe when I get to a more higher level, I'll be coming back to these areas to do a lot more stuff with it. But definitely the rest of the map seems just a little bit bare at the moment. But it is very early. It's only just gone into early access. They've probably got a good long, 14 months, 18 months of development time ahead of them. I can't really see it just staying like that. I think they'll be adding lots more content to it. And yeah, just gathering resources is really key and important. There's all sorts of things you can get. There's little containers. You can get bombs, grenades. Weapons-wise, typical stuff. Handhelds, assault rifles. I didn't come across anything too more different than that. The building structures, though, the base building looks pretty interesting. There's lots of key features you would expect to see. Triangle pieces, this, that, everything else. And there's lots of little crafting benches, 3D printers, or what they call them, where you can make your stuff. There is meant to be some environmental effects as well, maybe like solar flares, so occasionally you'll have to hide indoors. I didn't see that implemented in my little playthrough, but that is something that they may add a little bit more or make a bit bigger. The menu systems and UI is pretty good. It's pretty simplistic, just like you would find in every other sort of survival game. You got your HUD, you got your crafting benches, your inventories where you pop items in and then you can craft it. Obviously, you do need them flops though, and the flops is probably the most important aspect of it. The idea is that you can upload your data. You can upload some data. So you upload your character, that gets saved to the next season. But then you can choose to upload certain things. It may be skills, it may be perks. I wasn't too sure. I think it's going to be more clear when the season ends. We'll get a real idea of what to expect when you're going to upload something and when you're going to save it for the next season, so that your character starts off with a small advantage. But of course, it won't be a physical advantage. You're not going to be able to store up bases. All bases are going to get wiped. It's just about giving yourself a little bit of head start with skills and stuff like that. The sound and the music was pretty good. I like that aspect of it as well, and I think this could be a good game. I really hope they start thinking about getting it on Xbox One as soon as possible. It is published by 505 Games, so 505 have been doing a lot of business lately. In the last 18 months, 505 have published a hell of a lot of games, particularly early access. And what I like about 505, it's got a real big choice in what they're doing. They're doing survival games, they're doing still, 2D games. If you don't know, they're the publishers behind Terraria, and that's where they kind of made their money, made their name for themselves. But they're branching out in so many different things now, and as far as I'm aware, they give developers freedom to create their content they want, and they just help with the publishing side of things, rather than heavy-handed publishers that come in and demand this, demand that, as far as I know. So I do think it's a good relationship to be under 505 Games. The social marketing team had a little bit of a few issues launching it though, and I wasn't too impressed with how they wanted me to cover the game. They initially asked me to submit a video for preview before the early access period came out, and I've never had a content development team ask me to do that. I've never asked anyone, no one's ever asked to see my work before I published it, and their explicit instructions were so they could review it and get me to tweak it if needed. So I didn't like that aspect. I didn't agree to it, but they sent me the key anyway, so more for them. So this is completely unbiased. I hope that doesn't carry on. I think it was maybe just a bit overzealous. When you're a brand new early access game from a brand new development team or a team that I've not heard too much about in the past, you probably need to make sure you're doing the right things with your influencers and your YouTube creators and people that are showing off your game. So I hope that relationship improves a little bit. But yeah, that was just the one negative of the experience. It really nearly did put me off. I wasn't actually going to play the game, but I thought, no, I'll give it a try. They've sent me the code anyway. I didn't agree to anything, and so yeah, I'm glad I did, because I enjoyed it. It was a bit of fun, and that fear of running into a player was always there. I didn't run into many more, but on the second time that I played it, just on my off time, I didn't record it. Oh my god, I was getting killed 2 or 3 times, and the adrenaline was pumping, running away from players. I like that side of thing. That's not going to be for everyone. Some people want a nice relaxing space game, and they're out there. You can play Rock H, you can play Planet Nomads, where there's no PvP aspects as far as I know. You can just go out and do stuff. And you've got No Man's Sky, obviously getting a brand new update, coming out on the Xbox One as well soon. So that's obviously going to offer a lot of that space exploration feel. But I quite like this. The seasons are going to really be what makes it, and the events that they're going to add in. I really want to see what kind of events they've got going on. The trailer made it look very PvP-like, very Battle Royale-like, running around these towns, shooting at each other and trying to steal each other's flops. But of course, when you get down to it, there's probably not that many people on these servers. I think I counted maybe about 30 people at one point, and that was at peak time. That was the biggest I'd seen how many players were on it. So I guess if you keep playing, you're going to run into players, and that's going to keep it alive for me. That's why I want to play this game. I want that interaction with other players, not just to troll them. Maybe I can make alliances with people, but I love the idea of that aspect. Is it going to be a good encounter? Is it going to be a bad encounter? Am I going to get away with my loot and my life? And that's what makes this game different from all the other space games I mentioned, and why I think it's a good thing to compare it to something like Rust. Of course, it's a completely different setting, a completely different way of crafting, but it's very, very similar in terms of that core need. A few things to note. Oxygen is really important. Obviously, you're on planet Mars. Oxygen does run out, so it's a resource just like you would expect. Food you need resource of as well, and you gather lots of that as you're running around the world. You can see here the skill trees, really in depth, really, I guess in a way, for someone who's not used to these types of games, this may be quite a lot to take in. There's lots of different, engrams or blueprints to take a look at and go over. And if you're not used to survival games, you may be looking at this and going, oh my god, bore off. I'm not spending 10 minutes going through all these different tabs trying to work out what's going to be good. So it does add a layer of, not RPG, but it does add a bit more extra oomph to it, so you can really research and do stuff. But all it really is just unlocking levels. So when you get to a level, when you've got enough flops, you can go ahead and buy and upgrade yourself with a brand new building piece, with a brand new tool, or with a brand new buff or perk for your survivor class. And I quite liked it. I think that probably they can minimise it a bit better in the future, maybe make it a little bit more streamlined, but that will come. It's very early. I don't want to be overly harsh. I like the UIs, I like the menus. Those done functional, you knew exactly what each one does. You've got your health, you've got your oxygen, you've got your stamina. Maybe in the future it'd be good to see him add in lots of like vehicle types, weapon types. One thing about Osiris New Dawn is I love the vehicle types in that game. It's a bit of a forgotten one. If you've not seen it, go and check out one of my videos done ages ago. I might even try and link it. But it's got a big emphasis on exploration of the whole planet, or a big huge part of the map, and you use vehicles a lot, or you're meant to use vehicles a lot, and they've got different ones. They've got space bikes, space buggy, lunar buggies, even actual rocket ships that you can take off from the planet. Now, I don't know if this is going to go that way. I think it's more intimate. I think they want that player interaction, but I definitely would like to see some more stuff. Maybe there is that. I just didn't get a chance to take a look at it. Definitely be taking a look at this game more in depth. If you want me to see this game more, make sure you hit that like button. This has been my impressions of Memories of Mars. I quite like it. I'm going to give it a go. Let me know what you think about it. As soon as I get any information about when it might come to Xbox One or the PS4, or if there's any further development details, of course I'll let you know. And stay tuned. Don't forget to make sure you've got notifications on. It's really important nowadays with YouTube. Please make sure you've got notifications on if you want to see all my content, because you're not guaranteed to get it otherwise. I am Jade Plays Games. I will see you ratbags very soon.